What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the shop. We have been away for a little bit. We haven't posted a lot in the last 2 weeks. It's honestly been pretty hectic with everything that we got going on, trying to find parts, transitioning into the winter months. It's just kind of getting tough to work up here. But we finally have a free second to actually take and work on the Supra. I haven't touched this thing in a few months. It's just kind of been sitting. There's a couple things I want to get done today. I want to attack the suspension. I want to get some coilovers thrown in this thing. I want to test fit the new wheels. I have a mount for our digital dash, and I also want to rip in and take a look at what's going on with our water pump. As I talked about in the last video, we were driving this thing not too long ago and ended up blowing the water pump out, spit a bunch of coolant everywhere. So today, now that we've got a little bit of time on our hands, I want to pull that apart, take a look at it, and see if it's just the water pump that failed or if we got to go down a rabbit hole. But the major focus today is to get these coilovers swapped out for the Tokikos that I've got in there, and then I want to test fit the new wheels that I got. These are 18 by 9.5 plus 35. Everywhere I was reading says it would poke a little bit and be fairly aggressive, but it is going to get an over fender over the rear. We're going to roll the fronts out a bit, so it'll be a bit wider, should compensate for the extra bit of poke. Since we are throwing an angle kit on this thing, we'll have a little bit more adjustment to play around with in the front and back to get these things dialed in. So I think we're gonna start today by swapping out our old tired Tokiko E-Box spring combination for these Tyne coilovers that we picked up the other day here. These are the Tyne Flex Z coilovers. They don't have camber plates on them, which I was a bit upset about, but they are 32-way adjustable, tons of height adjustment, good coilover. I got a lot of buddies that run these on different chassis, so I wanted to try it out in the Supra. I've heard really good things about it. I also want to get my digital dash mounted. I spent last weekend making this little bracket here to mount the digital dash, so I want to finally get that thrown in the car. And then I also mounted my switch panel, but unfortunately I already did that, so I can't show any footage of it. So today we're gonna get all that swapped out, mount that digital dash, take a look at our water pump, and take a look and see what kind of damage we did when we were driving it last. But I think we're gonna get these wheels pulled off. I want to take a look at what we're rocking right now, and then we'll move right into things. So for a while, since this car has been an NA automatic, I've had the same suspension setup in here. It's a Tokiko shock with an E-Box spring. It's worked really well for me for a long time, and honestly, it's still got the semblance of functionality, but it's not cutting it for what we want to do. So these cars are very easy to swap the suspension out on. When I did it the last time, it was the 3 bolts on the top, the 1 bolt down here, and you should be able to sag the suspension far enough to get it out. With, like, unlike the Miata, how last time we had to undo the lower control arm, I don't remember having to do that on this. I could be wrong, but as far as, if memory serves me correctly, these were incredibly easy to do. Since the coilovers are obviously shorter than these, should even be easier to install the coils when we go to put the new ones in. Other than that, when the angle kit does show up, because like I said, I wanted to do it all at once, but for the sake of time, I'm just doing it in steps. It will end up replacing our forward caster adjustment, the tow arm, and then the control arm back here is an actual separate buy, but these 3 arms will be replaced with something adjustable, which will give us, all of our adjustment. And then the upper control arms, I'm kind of on the fence about. There are aftermarket ones available through Drift Motion. There's also another brand called Beach Performance that makes them as well. But again, I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know if I need that adjustment right off the bat, since I'll have all the adjustment on the bottom, but we'll play that one by ear. Obviously, the front angle kit is the front lower control arm, the front upper control arm. It's a knuckle adjustment that pulls the tie rod end towards the actual bearing itself to give you a little bit more steering angle. But that's neither here nor there, since none of those parts are here yet. But before we go ahead and rip these out of the car, I want to unbox these Tynes and just kind of take a look at them, see what we'll work with. I actually haven't even pulled these out of the box yet, so I'm excited to see them. The green color scheme is kind of, I don't know how exactly I feel about it, but it's there. They're green. Gotta love that. The hard Tyne decal, for sure putting that on my car. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought. I actually don't hate that green. Sweet, well this is them. Like I was saying, we got a 32-way adjustable damper on it, tons of height adjustment. Other than that, that's it. I wanted a basic coilover. I would have liked to get camber plates. Unfortunately, they didn't have an option to have camber plates with these coils, and these are the ones that I wanted to run. So there are aftermarket camber plates that you can buy and swap out for these top hats. Again, am I gonna need it? we won't really know until we start dialing this thing in. I gotta get this stud installed. I'm hoping that it's in this box somewhere. Other than that, I kind of want to just hop right into things. So I think once I get the stud put in, pull all these out, pull those coilovers out, swap them out, and then we'll be on to mounting the digital dash, throwing these wheels on, and then we'll see where the day takes us. But again, first things first, let's get the old shit out. All right, so we have all 4 corners disassembled, and needless to say, these things are clapped. I made a comment to Mike earlier. They were leaking at one point, and then they stopped. So I can only assume there's no more fluid in these. But I was a little wrong with the disassembly. The rears, yes, you unbolt the shock, you can lean it back, pull it right out, nothing else needs to come apart. The fronts are not the case. I did remember we do need to pull this upper bolt for the top control arm. If you've never pulled this before, it sucks. I fought for hours with this thing the first time when I installed these over the factory ones. Then I anti-seized them. So when you get these out, put anti-seize on them or you're gonna hate your life down the road. These springs will actually end up in Mikey's car. Mike's got a Mark III, and these are EBOC lowering springs. They're about 1.5 inches lower than the factory ones, if I remember correctly. Now, we need to go even lower. We'll grab a rear here, show you quick. It is literally this easy. You walk up, slide this down, bolt these. Well, if I wasn't an idiot, bolt these in, push your knuckle up, 1 bolt, 3 nuts, your rears are done. And it's basically the same for the front, minus that long eccentric bolt. So what you'll end up doing is you'll throw this in the front, get the top 3 mounts nice and secured, then you'll put your control arm bolt in, then you'll do the shock bottom. So it'll be really easy. We're gonna throw these in real quick and we'll reconvene once we have these installed in the car.
Oh yeah, 1:40 of me working the nuts.
And he sees it up. That's pretty much the extent of it. So like I said, 3 bolts in the top, 1 bolt in the bottom. Tying them down and you're done. Next thing to do, once we get the rest of them installed, go ahead and set our height adjustment, set our damping adjustment, and then the coils are done. We can move on to something else.
Make sure you torque your fasteners to the correct factory specifications. It sucks if you don't. Ask me how I know.
That needs to be fixed. One of the reasons that this thing needs charge piping. And there it is. 4 coilovers installed on our missile. Super happy about that. I do kind of want to just throw some wheels on it real quick and see what it looks like as we haven't adjusted anything. We just threw them in as they were out of the box. I'm gonna throw some wheels on this thing quick because I'm dying to see what it looks like. Now it's a bit lower. Oh yeah, that's definitely much lower. And it's functional now. I don't really want to go much lower. I think honestly this is really good. I like it. Might come down a little bit more back here since I believe I've got the adjustment there. Maybe a tad bit more in the front, but all in all, love that. Looks so much better now, a little bit lower than it was before. And once I get the kit thrown on here too, it'll definitely be a lot more aesthetically low. It'll still be functional and have suspension travel, but it'll look lower since it'll be a bit more of an aggressive skirt. So for anybody new to coilovers, this is super cool. So like I was saying in the beginning, these are a 32A adjustable coilover. So you have this little adjustment on top here that actually adjusts the dampening in the coilover. Now what dampening is it's an adjustment of the shims inside that control how much fluid and how fast that fluid moves from chamber to chamber inside of the shock, which in layman's terms essentially means how stiff is the shock. So when you fully max this thing out, which we have it set up right now for demonstration purposes, it's pretty planted. That, you're not having kidney stones with that. But on the flip side, if you take this little knob and you click it 32 ways to the left, all the way to your loosest setting, you get a lot more. There's your Cadillac setting. That's your floating on clouds setting. So pretty wild difference between like fully tightened and fully loosened dampening adjustment. So that's just a little demonstration for you if you're not familiar with coilovers, but the ability to do that is pretty cool. And honestly, yeah, the green kind of looks cool. Now that it's like in the car, I hate it a little bit less, but still not the best green in the world. Well, cool. The coils are in, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to put the car back up in the air. I'm gonna pull one of these wheels off real quick. And I want to test fit one of these guys. So these are an Autawan DS02. It's a pretty cheap wheel. There is absolutely nothing special about these. I'm not trying to show the wheel off, more just the design on the car. But these should be good drift spares, and I got them for a really good price. I think they should go with the car well. So this is them. I got these on a scratch and dent through MA Performance. So I got them for a really good price. Unfortunately, somebody did try to spray paint one of them. So like one of them is a little darker than the rest and kind of has a shitty finish, but it is what it is. The rest of the wheels are still good, so we'll use them. They're drift wheels anyway, so who cares? But put the car back up in the air. I want to throw one of these on because I'm dying to see how this fits now that it's a bit lower. Well, I was wrong. They're an 18 by 9.5 plus 30. I did test fit these myself the other day, so I kind of know how they fit. But honestly, all things considered, I like them a lot. They do poke, if you look at it from the top down, a little bit, but where you're gonna stretch these tires a little bit, and they will camber in, obviously. So it should, once we get our over fender on, sit pretty flush on the top with the outside of our car, giving us a bit of camber. So you'll see the side of the wheel down here a little bit as it pokes out, but that's pretty much it. That should sit pretty well. I'm happy with that. The fronts are a little aggressive for my taste. I think what I'm gonna do is pick up a set of 18 by 8.5 plus 35s, 30s. Haven't decided quite yet. Just a little bit of a narrower tire because this is a bit more aggressive. But again, keep in mind, it won't remain a stock body car. We're gonna roll these a little bit. Rears are gonna get some overs. These are gonna get kind of pulled out as much as we can to try to match the wheel. And again, we will also be cambering this front tire as well. So happy. And I like this style. I'm gonna keep the car gray, so I like the, you know, the darker, almost like bluish wheel. It looks pretty good in my opinion, but I'm happy.
Bluish, he says.
Yeah.
That's more like a light gunmetal.
There's a light blue tinge in it. 100%.
Well, see, now you can actually see it on the camera, but those are like...
Oh. No, I mean, but for all intents and purposes, they're gray.
Yes, they're like gunmetal.
But there's some blue in it.
I like how you can see it on the camera, but not in real life.
Well, you can't see it in real life. Well, sick. The coilovers are in. The next thing I want to move on to real quick, since it's really simple, is to throw this digital dash mount in. This is not something that I bought. This is a piece of metal that I bent and drilled some holes in and spray painted. You can tell I already installed it, so I know that it fits. But I needed some way to like actually mount the dash so it's not just sitting on my dashboard. So I was thinking, obviously I want it front and center here. It was sitting back here, but it's a little far. I kind of want it to be a little closer, so I figured, what if we could move it right here? That way it would telescope with the steering wheel and all that. So this mount I designed to just bolt right to here, and then that sits right on top of it. And you can perfectly see the dash through the top of the wheel. And for the most part, digital dashes are really cool. When I'm drifting the car, I don't really look at it that much. I mean, it's cool to see like where I am in RPM, but that's like really all I'm looking at is the shift lights. The rest of it is kind of just noise till you're done with your run. So as long as I can see what RPM I'm at and what speed I'm going is really the only information that like I'm the most worried about. So something right here, nice, simple, and I think it'll end up looking good. So I'm gonna throw some bolts in here. I'm gonna bolt this to the dash first. It's right down here, and then we'll bolt it into place. And I am going to rerun these wires. Either way, this dash needs to be able to come in and out with it being cold out. I don't want to leave it up here in freezing weather. So you're gonna be able to see the wires, I think, either way, but I'm gonna try to put them in a way where it's not obnoxious. Yeah, sometimes it's just better to grab some metal, toss a bracket together. If you're gonna haggardly build cars, just get really good at building brackets. You'll do it a lot. Yep, so then it just ends up sitting like that. Pretty straightforward, nice and simple. See it really good too. And this, we're just gonna take these short little screws. Magnetic tips are so nice. And there it is. Nice and mounted. Holds this in the perfect spot. Telescopes with the wheel. Clears the dashboard. So now once I pretty up these wires here to kind of hide them a bit, this should look a lot better. These do need to be exposed, unfortunately, because this dash needs to be able to come in and out because it sits up here outside. So I don't want this screen to freeze or anything like that. I don't know if it's bad for it to be in -degree weather, but I'd rather not take that chance. So that's got to come in and out. And then off camera, I glued my switch panel in place. I have it glued along this ridge right now because I need to make a bracket that actually sits in here and bolts into the dashboard so I can bolt the actual switch panel to that mount, but I don't have that yet. And it fits almost perfectly along the inside of this. So just a bit of glue, not a whole lot, just kind of holding it in place right now. And the switch panel is nice and sturdy. So feels good with the interior kind of coming back together, honestly. Once I get plates to block off some of these holes and I throw a glove box back into here, it'll be nice and cozy. So happy about that. But with that completed, there's only one thing that I left that I really want to do today, and that's just to take a look at this water pump and see if we can figure out where the actual, if the leak is from the water pump or something else, because we were leaking coolant from up there. But yeah, we got to investigate before we know. Yeah, okay, so unfortunately I forgot that I had already drained all the coolant out of this thing since it's sitting outside and it's starting to get below freezing, and I was running water, which is pretty evident of why my water pump went out. I kind of had forgotten that I threw water in this thing and water wetter and was going to replace it with coolant. I was in too much of a hurry and wanted to drive my car, and I didn't want to go buy coolant. So that happened, which I don't even have parts for yet. I don't have a water pump. I'm fairly certain after looking at it for a little bit now that the water is actually leaking from the gasket around the pump. So maybe it's nothing major. I don't know if we'll get into this too much tonight. I think I'm just going to take a look at it and order parts up, and we'll kind of attack this off camera and get everything sealed back up. But I'm happy with the progress for today with the coilover install. Made sure our wheels fit, which I'm pretty confident that once we get a little bit of stretch in the tires for the new wheels, that everything will fit in nice once we get the angle kit and alignment dialed in. Plus we still have a lot of adjustment left on the cam bolts if we want to just, try to make it fit with the stock stuff. But yeah, pretty cool. It's amazing how much, I know everybody says this when they get coilovers in. It's like the most cliche thing in the world, but it really does transform the way the car looks. And it's such a abysmal change that just gives the car a whole nother feel and look. It's slightly less shitty. But yeah, super happy with it. Very happy with the digital dash mount. I wasn't expecting. I thought it was gonna get cut off on the top, and it fits perfect. So super happy with that. I think that's going to be where we're going to end it for today, unfortunately. I'm cold. It's getting late. We do need to get the Conquest pulled in here next to get our engine installed. We actually came up here the other day to get all of our piping, intercoolers, and everything like that cleaned and ready to go. So we should be at the point where we're ready to start actually assembling things. We do need to buy an oil cooler and some hoses, but we should have all that by the time we're getting ready to start the car up. So next time we'll be up here working on the Conquest, but this time we're all finished up and I want to go home. So thanks you everybody for watching. If you liked what you saw, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Go pick up some merch on notashoeworksnicheparts.com. I'll see you guys next time.